Hello there, my name is Ismas and welcome to another Blender 2.8 tutorial. And in this video we're going to be looking at how I made this scene here. Just camera following a butterfly as it flies through these concrete structures. This tutorial is mostly going to be focused on how I did the animation because the modeling part is quite easy, and also is the texturing. And if you want to see how I did everything, you can just watch the time-lapse version of the entire process. I already have the video uploaded, I think. So let's see how I did the animation. So if we examine the butterfly closely, you see that it's nothing detailed. It's just, let me first turn off the effects here, some of the effects here, so that we have a much smooth viewport. Let me turn off still not as smooth. Let me just hide everything. Okay, so you can see that this is just a simple plane that is animated. You can see, and I think you can use this for birds and simple animals that do that kind of floppy animation in your scene, as long as they are not too close to your camera, so that someone can tell it's just a plain animated. So let's see how I did this. I didn't want to model a full butterfly because it would take a lot of time, and from the distance where this butterfly would be seen by the camera, it wouldn't make any difference. So I just decided to do it like this, and since the butterfly was not the main focus of this scene, I was okay with that. So let's see how I did this. So you can see that I have a mirror modifier that kind of duplicates the animation and the textures of this plane on the left side of the butterfly. So let's replicate this. The way you do that, you want to start with a plane, and we want to move the pivot this edge to the pivot point, or to the center here, so that the pivot point is at the center, so that when we rotate, let me just show you, maybe move this to the center like that, so that when we rotate, the flopping of the wings are going to be pivoted. The rotation is going to have the pivot at the center here. So if you tried adding a mirror modifier, and so if you tried adding a mirror modifier and tried animating this directly like this, you can see that you run into this issue where the entire thing will rotate, the entire mesh will rotate, including the mirror part. So the way I countered that, instead of animating it directly in here, what I did is use shape keys. So shape keys are just a way to animate your mesh based on how you deform the mesh. So the way you do that, you just go under your object data, and then you'll find the option for shape keys. You start with a shape the base shape, like the default shape of the mesh, and then you create another shape that you can deform now into a different shape. So when you play around with this value, you can blend the two different shapes. So you're just morphing it from one shape to another, and I think that was good enough for our animation. You can see because we're using a mirror modifier, the morphing or the shape keys we did here are being reflected on the other side of the mirror modifier. So let's go back to our shape keys. I can see the problem I'm running into right now is that the value doesn't, so it's the flopping doesn't go all the way down. It just comes back to this flat part because our basis or basic or default shape is just a flat shape. So I'm just going to edit this a bit. So I've selected the basis and then push these vertices down so that our base mesh is like this. And now if we animate this, it will animate from this key to this key, which is this here. So then we can have a full cycle of rotation like that. If you want to make this a bit more exaggerated, you can push it up like that. So you can animate this value if you want, but it is not an efficient way of doing it. So but let me just show you how to do it, and in this way, and also show you an easier way to do it. So if you set a keyframe here, you can move. So the shortcut for moving this has been changed. You no longer use the right click to move the timeline. I just hold down shift and then right click to move the timeline. So you can move it to a different spot and change the value. Make sure you mark a keyframe again, and then change the value again, mark a keyframe, and you will have your animation like this. But you would have to do this a lot of times, so you can just copy this a few times as well. So paste. You can see there is no change of value here, so you may want to delete this so that there is a change of value here, and then copy this again, paste it around here, remove that keyframe. So you would have to repeat this a lot of times, and if you're not happy with the values, then you can scale down to increase the flopping of the wings. But there's an easier way to do this, and that is using drivers. So if let me just delete all the keyframes here, and if you right click any value that is animated, that can be animated, you can add a driver to it, and this is just adding an expression, just adding an expression, a programming expression to kind of tell Blender how to animate your object using the expression. So you can try, let's say, frame times 10. Also make sure under the object you have the object you want as the object. You can see, so the driver is working, but it's only kind of playing back once, because the value depending on our expression is only changing once. Let's see if we add a 2 there, still changing once. So you can go around and change, and you can go to Google and search for expressions that time bound, that can play back continuously, because I think this expression doesn't. So what I did, I wanted to have a sine wave animation that cannot, because a sine wave is dependent on the time frame, so it will kind of create this up and down animation that we need for the butterfly, and that's the kind of animation we want. Let me first remove this driver. So to remove a driver, just right click and then delete driver. So we want a driver that can control our time by changing this value up and down like this. And I found that a sine wave would be a good expression to kind of create this kind of animation, because it always changes the values to positive and negative values, so we can have this kind of animation. So you can go to Google and search for sine wave expression, Blender expressions, or driver expressions, and that's exactly what I did, because I didn't know how to make one myself. So I did go, I don't remember where I got it, but I think I just typed into Google and got the expression I got. So let me show you the expression I used here. So if I go to here, you can see, if I edit this expression, you can see this was the expression that I found. I think it was cos here instead of tan, but I changed it to tan just to experiment with the different values what I was getting, and changed the animation a bit, but it still produced the effect that I wanted. So you just go to Google and search for Blender driver animation expressions, and look for what you want. So then I can come in here, edit, add driver, then paste the expression there. Remember to select the object here directly, and then if we play back, you can see we have the animation. So you still can edit this expression. So if I change this to tan, I think the original expression was coarse, and I didn't want how it kind of stopped a bit for a second, so I played around with a different expression. So I tried sine, I tried, and I think tan was the expression that worked best for me. It still has that, but it wasn't going to be that visible in the animation, so I was okay with that. So if you get the animation right, then you can start adding in the textures. If you want, you can do that before you start working on the textures. So the way I did the textures is so I got the butterfly image, if I can find where I had that downloaded to. Okay, so it's here, and you want to go to UV edit, unwrap this, and you can use the image as your background, and under shading, go to the shading tab and add a new texture, sorry, a new material. So we want an image texture, and we need to load it in butterfly. So the reason why you want a PNG, sorry, an image with alpha, because you want to use the alpha to tell Blender where the transparent parts of this butterfly are going to be. So, and the way you do that, if you hold on Control Shift and then click on this, you can see that we can see the color value, and then Control Shift, click again, you can see the alpha matte or the alpha mask of this butterfly. So you want to feed that into the alpha value of the principal shader, and now we can preview this, and then the color value into the base color. Now we are still seeing the black areas because if you are using Eevee, you need to come into to the material settings, and down here under settings you need to change the blending mode to something like blend, alpha blend, instead of opaque, to get rid of the black areas that you see there, and that should work, I think. Just need to give it. Okay, seems not to be working. Did I do this right? Alpha blend, opaque. Something is not working correctly here. Make sure this image is loaded in correctly. Let's first turn off the alpha and see. Something is low. Let me just add a plane here and create a new material so that I can see what's going on here. I don't know if this is a bug, but let's see. So we want to fit this into the base color, and then this into the alpha, and then change the blending mode to either alpha blend or alpha hashed, and I should have that. Let's see what's going. Okay, so yes, I don't know why this is not working for this here. I think we need to click on use nodes here. I don't know why it wasn't activated there, but yeah, make sure you have the use nodes options clicked on, and I should have the same result. So again, change this back to alpha blend or alpha hashed. They will both work. Now we need to move our UVs so that each side of the plane uses only half of the butterfly. So we can go back to the UV editor, change this to texture mode. and we can select this edge and move it so that it shares, we only have, each side only shares half of the butterfly texture. So if we play back, you can see we have our animation. In our final animation, you see that, let me follow this. You can see that the butterfly also goes up and down. And the way I did that is that I didn't want to animate it. So what I did is I added an empty. I just select this. Shift S, cursor selected. Added an empty like that, and parented this to this empty, so that, let me bring back this to text it, so that if this is playing back, I can also either animate this by hand or use another expression on this. The butterfly will maintain its animation, but this also will have its own animation to animate the overall kind of up and down butterfly motion. And if you wanted to have some rotation, you can also do that. And so what I did is, I didn't want to kind of waste too much time on this. I just went in, copied the same expression, and instead of adding this expression to the blending, to the key shapes, to the shape keys, what I did, I just added this expression to the position values, to the Z position of this object, because since we are getting a sine wave, it will kind of give us this motion here. So we can go to the Z axis and add and paste in, first add the driver and then paste in the expression, and make sure you have the object selected, so empty, and let's see. You can also change, I don't think this would matter, but so we have our expression working, and but you can see it's going way too warp, so you can come in and edit the expression a bit, change the values a bit and see. So this is going up, it's too frequent, so let's try sine and see if this will change. Okay, so but it's too fast, so let's see if I, instead of divide, just multiply this, doesn't give us anything, divide by 3. Okay, so if you divide the frame value by a bigger number, you get a slower up down motion like that, which is better. I think we should also do that for this, because I think it's, yeah, I think it's better. Maybe speed it up a bit by 3. Let's see. So if you want, you can also copy the expression for any of the other axes that you want animated. So let's say, because you can see this is just going up and down in the Z directions, there is no X and Y movement, so you can add that if you want. And you're not only restricted to the expression that I have here. There are a lot of expressions that exist. You can just try googling and see what comes up. So this is the y-axis. Did we change anything here? Okay. 4. So this is, we need to change this maybe to 8. So this is forward movement. But you can also add in the X, some movement on the X axis. Doesn't have to be that much, but yeah. You'll see in the time lapse that I wanted to find an expression for to have a random rotation, so that it's not kind of having the same, it doesn't have the same loop over and over. So you can try finding a random expression that would give you a random movement instead of the same cycle over and over. But I think this would work. So the first expression changes, kind of gives us that flapping of the wings, and then we have this that gives us that the overall bouncing around. But we need the animation for moving this along the path, along the y direction, the x direction, moving it forward. So if you tried animating this, you will see that you can't even move this object anymore, because all the location values have been locked to a driver. So we also we need, what we're going to do is parent this again to another empty that will control the forward movement of the butterfly. So Shift S, and then I'll add another empty. This time I'll just give it a cube. Parent this to this. So we can't move this because its movement is controlled by the driver. But since we have parented this to this object, now we can move that, and the entire butterfly will move. So now you can animate this however you want. So if you want to move it forward, just add the necessary keyframes. You can see we have that animation. The reason why it's going out of the box, remember we have that kind of, we have the driver sine wave that is giving us that kind of cycle of movement. But you can make this more interesting, but by rotating this around in different direction to kind of give to kind of give it, you need to speed this up a bit. So scale these values down. So if I turn this off, you can see how we have a very convincing butterfly movement. So this is how I achieved the movement. I just made the butterfly kind of move forward just a few distance from the camera as it came, as it was following it. So let's see. You can see. Yeah, basically that's the tutorial. If you want to get to download the project files, you can find them in my Patreon. You can become a patron and download the project files so that you can examine how I did the materials, which is very simple, but a little bit complicated. Not that complicated, but you can see we're just blending a lot of concrete textures on top of each other. So if you want the project files, you can find them on my Patreon page. Thank you.